We often think about food in, well, pretty simple terms, right? It's fuel, or maybe it's pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what if we're missing something huge? What if the food on our plate is actually like the most powerful medicine we have, maybe even capable of reversing chronic disease? That's really the core idea in Dr. Michael Greger's book, How Not to Die. And that's what we're diving into today.
And you shared this because you wanted a way to get straight to the evidence, right? The science behind nutritional prevention.
Exactly.
What's really interesting about this book is it's not about fads. It digs into thousands of actual peer-reviewed studies. It really tries to bridge that gap between, complex medical science and just what we eat every day.
And the main argument is, well, it feels pretty radical, actually, compared to how we usually think about medicine.
It is.
Greger basically argues that most premature deaths, the ones taking people way too young, are preventable. And nutrition isn't just like a small part of it. It's the key weapon.
It really challenges the whole symptom management model we see so much in healthcare.
Yeah.
The argument, and it's backed by a ton of clinical evidence in the source material, is that prevention using deliberate food choices isn't just cheaper or safer. It's often actually more effective than trying to manage diseases once they've already taken hold.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that. Let's get specific. The first half of How Not to Die goes through like the top 15 causes of premature death one by one. We should probably focus on the really big ones because the sources suggest it's not just about lowering risk, it's about actual reversal through diet.
Exactly, reversal. And when we talk about that, we need to understand, well, how? What's the mechanism? Take heart disease. Still a massive killer.
Yeah,
right?
number one in many places.
The sources pull together just overwhelming evidence that a whole food, plant beef diet, lots of fiber, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Clinical studies show it can actually reverse the buildup in arteries, atherosclerosis.
Okay, hold on. How does eating, say, a big salad undo plaque that might have taken decades to build up? I mean, that sounds almost too easy.
Well, it's not quite magic. It's mechanics, really. The fiber helps reduce cholesterol reabsorption. That's one part. But maybe more importantly, think about leafy greens. They're packed with nitrates.
Okay.
And in the body, those turn into nitric oxide. That stuff is critical for what's called endothelial function.
The lining of the blood vessels.
Exactly. The health of that lining. Nitric oxide helps relax and widen the arteries. That improves blood flow and sort of lets the body's own healing processes start repairing the vessel walls.
Huh. So it shifts the thinking from just avoiding bad stuff to actively eating healing stuff. Okay, let's pivot then. What about cancer? That's another huge one. What does the research say diet can do there?
There, the focus shifts more to specific compounds in food. The source material really highlights cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, kale, cauliflower.
The ones people either love or hate.
Pretty much. But they contain these things called glucosinolates. And when we chew them or chop them, our body converts them into really powerful anti-cancer agents. Sulforaphane is probably the most famous one.
Sulforaphane. Okay, can you elaborate? Like, what's it actually doing inside our cells?
So what's really fascinating is how these compounds help activate the body's phase 2 detoxification enzymes.
Phase 2 enzymes.
What? Yeah, think of them like your cell's internal defense system. They trap and neutralize carcinogens, the things that can cause cancer ideally, before they damage your DNA. So by boosting this system, you're essentially helping your body block cancer from even starting and also encouraging programmed death in cells that are already abnormal.
Wow. So it's less about like building a wall to keep carcinogens out and more about making sure your internal cleanup crew is super efficient.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Very empowering.
Definitely.
And this evidence-based idea, it applies to metabolic diseases too, like type 2 diabetes. For anyone concerned about that, the data points really clearly towards cutting way back on animal fat and processed sugar while seriously upping the fiber.
Right.
And that directly tackles the root problem, improving insulin sensitivity.
Okay, insulin sensitivity. For people who don't maybe track that term, what does improving that mean for how our body uses energy?
It basically means making your cells less stubborn.
Okay.
When we eat, insulin is like the key that unlocks our cells to let sugar, glucose inside for energy. If your body's insulin resistant, the key doesn't work well. Sugar hangs around in the blood, causing damage. By cutting down on inflammatory fats and loading up on fiber, your cells become receptive again. The key works better. Your body can use food efficiently, preventing those damaging blood sugar spikes.
Makes sense. Okay, one more big area, brain health. Cognitive decline is a huge fear for many people. The research points to specific foods there too.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking mainly at berries and leafy greens again.
Berries, okay.
Berries are just packed with anthocyanins. These are powerful antioxidants, and crucially, they can cross the blood-brain barrier. Leafy greens, meanwhile, they give you huge doses of folate, vitamin B9. That's key for lowering homocysteine levels, which is a known risk factor for dementia. So together, these nutrients seem to fight that chronic, low-level inflammation in the brain, which more and more research identifies as a driver of cognitive aging.
It's really compelling how this approach leans so heavily on clinical evidence, not just, marketing or trends.
Right.
But it definitely pushes back against some pretty common beliefs about food, which raises a point. Before we get to the what to do part, the action plan, what are some common dietary myths that the science Gregor presents really challenges?
Yeah, that's important. Gregor definitely tackles some big nutritional controversies, and he uses meta-analyses studies to do it. And the data often goes against popular trends, like the idea that high-protein diets, especially ones heavy in animal products, are just inherently healthy long-term.
That's a big one.
It is. The sources argue that too much animal protein can actually strain the kidneys and might increase levels of IGF-1, which is potentially linked to cancer growth.
Okay, but I think probably the most common pushback you hear against a whole food, plant-based diet, and I want to bring this up because listeners worry about it, is nutrient deficiency, specifically B12.
Right.
What does the book say about needing supplements if you cut way back on animal products?
That's a really crucial point, and the sources are very clear on it. They don't gloss over it. B12 is absolutely essential. It's made by bacteria, and historically, we got it from eating food that wasn't perfectly sanitized, from the soil, essentially. Now, because our food supply is so clean, B12 deficiency is actually common, even in meat eaters sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much guaranteed if you eliminate animal foods without supplementing.
So it's a must-have?
Yes. The science, according to Gregor, states clearly, B12 supplementation is non-negotiable for anyone adopting this kind of diet long-term. It's treated like a vital safety net.
Okay, that's really important for balance, acknowledging what needs attention. So if we know the foods the science suggests we should maybe limit or be careful with, let's flip it. Let's get practical. What should we be eating? And that brings us to the really actionable part, the Daily Dozen checklist.
Exactly. Because all this knowledge, it's only powerful if you can actually do something with it.
Right.
And the Daily Dozen is that framework. It basically distills hundreds of pages of dense medical research into a simple checklist, something you can aim for each day to make sure you're hitting those critical nutrient targets.
Yeah, this is what makes the approach so usable, I think. It gives you something concrete, 12 things to try and incorporate. Let's walk through some of them. The foundation is beans, berries, and other fruits.
Yeah, those are sort of non-negotiable for fiber, antioxidants, general goodness. Then you get the 3 veggie categories: cruciferous vegetables.
Like the broccoli and kale we talked about.
Exactly. Then greens, leafy greens.
Yeah.
And other vegetables. The idea is just sheer volume and variety, get all those different phytonutrients.
Okay. But then there are some items that get their own spot, which is interesting, like flax seeds. Why single out flax seeds?
Flax seeds are just tiny nutritional powerhouses. They punch way above their weight. They're one of the best sources of lignans these compounds have, hormone balancing and maybe anti-cancer effects.
Yeah.
But maybe even more importantly, they provide ALA, alpha-linolenic acid. That's a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid.
Okay.
And Gregor really emphasizes you need to grind them just before you eat them. That makes sure you can actually absorb all the goodness. It turns this tiny seed into a really potent anti-inflammatory cholesterol-lowering tool.
See, that detail about grinding, that's the kind of practical, evidence-based tip that makes this so useful. Another surprising one that gets its own category, spices, and specifically turmeric. Why the focus on one spice?
Well, the evidence for turmeric, or really its active compound curcumin, is just overwhelming in the scientific literature, according to the source. Yeah. Curcumin gets highlighted again and again for its potent anti-inflammatory properties. Studies suggest it might help with everything from, like, joint pain to maybe even slowing down neurodegenerative diseases. It's included because adding just a little bit, like a quarter teaspoon a day, is such a low-effort, potentially high-reward habit.
Okay, that makes sense. Low effort, high return. The list also includes whole grains, big emphasis on whole, not refined, and beverages, mostly water and green tea for its polyphenols.
Right. And the final piece of the dozen, number 12, reminds us this isn't just about food. It's exercise. It's not a food, obviously, but it's treated as an essential daily dose of health. It highlights that synergy between moving your body and how well your body uses all those good nutrients you're putting in.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener? I think the core message is really about understanding your own control, your own power over your health.
Absolutely. Knowledge is empowerment, right? And the source material really hammers home this idea. Food is medicine. Every single bite is either, actively fighting disease or potentially feeding it.
Wow, that's a strong statement.
It is. And it means being really proactive about cutting out what the book calls the silent killers.
Which are?
Processed meats, sugary drinks, refined carbs, trans fats. Getting rid of those isn't just like a good idea. It's presented as a fundamental life-saving first move. It immediately lowers inflammation, stops ongoing damage.
But the encouraging part, I think, is the focus on starting small. It's not all or nothing.
No, definitely not.
The research seems to show that small habits add up to huge health benefits over time. Just adding one serving of greens or berries or beans each day can significantly cut your disease risk down the line. You don't have to flip your life upside down tomorrow. Just start shifting.
And, this whole approach fits perfectly within the bigger picture of lifestyle medicine.
Yeah.
Nutrition is central, absolutely. But long-term wellness, the kind outlined here, also depends on integrating exercise, getting good sleep, managing stress, having social connections. It's the whole package.
So what this deep dive really shows us is that health isn't just luck or, purely genetic destiny. It's much more about a series of daily informed choices based on solid scientific evidence. The research offers a kind of blueprint for taking immense personal responsibility, but also feeling really empowered.
Yeah, and building on that final message from the source, the ultimate goal isn't just tacking more years onto your life. It's about adding life to those years. Real vitality. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Quality of life.
So when you're thinking about your next meal, maybe your next grocery run, just reflect on this core argument. That prevention through nutrition could actually be more powerful than waiting for pharmaceuticals later on. What's one daily decision you could make starting today that focuses on tackling a potential root cause instead of just managing a symptom later?
A really powerful question to end on. Thank you for sharing these sources with us. Really fascinating stuff.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.